Hello and welcome to Paul Pluta Prestige. Today I'd like to cover the greatest Patek Philippe watches of all time. And if you look at the fantastic prices achieved for Patek Philippe wristwatches, the two words that bring ultimate high prices are Perpetual calendar and Chronograph. And I'd like to review a few of these pieces for my audience. And it's an amazing thing when you look at the Patek Philippe patents which it has obtained over the years. Even as new as 1996, Patek Philippe got a patent for the annual calendar mechanism. And Patek is very much a traditionalist, but they are also an innovator in the industry. And I'd like to have a look at a couple of magnificent Pateks through history. These are Perpetual Chronographs, Perpetual calendar chronographs, and I'm going to touch on a few models here. And I've purposely excluded a few of the rare references, like the 130 Chrono Perpetual, and other models that contain complications over and above the traditional chronograph and perpetual calendar movement. For example, in 1951, Patek released the 2571, a split-second chronograph perpetual calendar. And I'm looking at these pieces, the 1518, the 2499, the 3970 and the 5970, because they were produced serially and they were available. A lot of specialist one-off pieces I think I could mention, but for this purpose here I'm going to look at the main pieces. And firstly, let's look at the 1518, which was Patek Philippe's first serially produced chronograph perpetual calendar. Now firstly, perpetual calendar, that's a watch which is able to tell you the day, the date, the month, and also it's able to work out leap years, which is absolutely amazing. An annual calendar needs setting in February, and that's because of the leap years. And but an annual calendar is able to work out how many months have the 30 days and how many have the 31 days. So a perpetual calendar is just simply a more advanced annual calendar. It's an amazing thing. And when you combine that with a chronograph, it's like a stopwatch, you've truly got an amazing piece. The 1518, and it's an absolutely magic piece. It was made from 1941 to 1954. However, only 281 examples were produced. Most were in yellow gold. There were some rose gold, and there were 4 stainless steel versions, which are incredibly rare. And there were a few different versions. There was 4 different versions there. The 1518, the width of it was 35 millimeters, which is a bit small by today's standards. However, when you look at the piece, it wears a lot bigger, and that's due to the thin bezel and the beautiful oversized crown. And it's truly a magnificent piece. And I think the 1518 is a classic all-time great. The next piece I want to talk about is the Patek Philippe 2499, a perpetual calendar again, and it was actually a piece which some celebrities have owned them. John Lennon was given a 2499 for his 40th birthday by Yoko Ono. So it's a very fantastic piece. Recently, Eric Clapton's Platinum 2499 was sold at auction. And the 2499 is arguably one of the best known and surely one of the most desirable wristwatches of all time. It was produced from 1951 to 1985, and the majority were in yellow gold. There was some pink and white gold versions. Production is estimated at 349 examples, which is not a lot, and it used a Valjoux based 23 jewel movement, which was manually wound. And magnificent pieces. There was basically 4 versions, and I think in many ways the 2499 is the ultimate vintage watch. The case size measures 37.5 mils, so it has a presence without being over the top. And I think it's one of the all-time classic pieces, the 2499. Unfortunately, extremely collectible, extremely rare, and extremely expensive. That leaves me to the next piece, the 3970. And the 3970 was introduced in 1986, and production ran until 2004. The 3970 went through quite a few iterations throughout its 19-year run. Case metal came in yellow gold, rose gold, and platinum. There were basically 3 versions, but you could say there were 5 versions if you included the variation 3971 and 3970/2. The piece was 36 mils, so slightly smaller. It was very elegant, very dressy, chronograph perpetual calendar. It used a Lemania-based manual wind movement, and I think it's an absolute classic piece. And I think in some ways the 3970 is one of the all-time modern classics, and an absolute amazing piece which was introduced in 1986. And I've just got to say, it was a fantastic piece there. Production numbers: the first series about 3,600 pieces. The 3970 had a total production of 3,600 pieces. The first series about 100 pieces, the second series about 900, and the last series had about 2,600 pieces. 3,600 pieces in total, which really is not a lot. And I think it's a gorgeous piece. And the current Patek Philippe Perpetual calendar is the 5970, and this piece was introduced in 2004 at Basel, and it has a case size of 40 millimeters, so it's certainly got some presence, some wrist presence, whilst not being over the top. The dial on the 3970 is very similar to the 1518. And the piece, it houses the old style Lemania-based manual wind caliber CH27-70Q movement. And I think it's a gorgeous piece. It's a modern piece with a vintage touch. And I think the 40 mil size is probably more in keeping with today's ridiculous standards. But I'm a huge fan of the 3970. But I've got to say, it's a modern piece, and it's a beautiful piece. And I've got to say, all these 4 pieces here would make a delightful addition to anyone's Patek Philippe collection. I'm Paul Pluter from Paul Pluter Prestige. Tell me what you think of the Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph. Thank you.